Welcome to the Purpose Pursuit podcast, where strong men, strong women, and strong families create a strong future. Today we're digging into a conversation that could literally change your family tree forever. Generational wealth, building a legacy for our families. If you're tired of starting from scratch every generation, this episode's for you. Let's get into it. So, now would you all consider yourself as first generation in terms of the just mindset of thinking about generational wealth?
Yeah, we are. And the reason why I said it's harder on the first generation, okay? Because the first generation is going to put all the work in. And then the successors and the people that come behind you, it should be less work for them because the first generation put all of the foundation together. And once the foundation is laid, then the next generation, all they got to do is build the house on the foundation. And why we say we're the first generation, if we wasn't the first generation, our parents would have already taught it to us and we would be functioning in that manner. And if you look at our kids in 2025, most of our kids are starting off from ground zero, first generation in 2025.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we are the first generation that is developing a process for our families to follow.
Now, first generation, 20 years ago, were you thinking like this? 30 years, 10 years? Like, what sparked that thought, or what type of people did you really surround yourself with to even start going down this line of thinking?
Before you answer that, let me just answer part of that. 20 years ago, we learned about some generational stuff through a coworker of his, but because the generations that preceded us, we did not know that was something we needed to know. So I think I'm going to let him answer the second part. We have partnered with people who are financially literate, and those people that we've partnered with, mostly I give him a pat on the back for that. They're the ones, he sat in the Zoom rooms, he sat in meetings, he sat in board meetings or whatever meetings he was in to actually meet those people. And so I'll let you answer from there. So what have you done to put yourself in a position to be able to?
Yeah, like to her point, now we believe what we work on and we teach on is estate planning. And then estate planning, asset protection, and trusts. All of that kind of works together, even though they're different from each other. We realize that if you're going to have a business and you're going to mass different assets out here, how do you protect those assets? How do you structure it in a way that it make it pass you? Okay, and the way to do that is by establishing a family plan, working a family plan, the family estate, and roll on right on into trusts. So, and then again, that involves the children. And what we do with the children, again, like when you turn 18, you're a voting member. Under 18, you still got to be at the meeting because we're paying for that cell phone. You just don't get a chance to vote. We want to hear your opinion, but you're not a voting member till you turn 18.
It's just so the people that are watching are clear. You're talking about within this family structure, business, etc.
Which is within Curtis Body and Jackie Body family structure. This is where we are right now.
Yeah,
we're on trusts and foundations.
So a lot of people think relationships are solely off love and how I'm feeling and this, that, and the other. But, they don't really realize that at times who you pick is really going to be your business partner too within that home. And so, and then I hear you talking about, how you have your family structured. Obviously, you love one another. I'm sure you've been through ups and downs, but at the end of the day, you're together, you're running your homes like it's a business because you got bills. You got things that you may not be able to pay at some point, throughout the marriage, right? But You know, what would you say to somebody that thinks that it's just all about how I feel versus, yeah, you feel good, but I still want to make sure I pick the right business partner. Like, how can you give someone some advice in terms of how to pick the best person?
I think stepping outside of yourself to see the person for who they really are. I was talking to somebody the other day, and she was telling me that the person she chose had to have certain swag, certain kind of clothes, how he dressed. And I'm like, you're leaving so much on the table because at the end of the day, when he can't walk anymore, his swag is gone. So you have to step outside of yourself to see what it is that will satisfy the whole person. I go back to a conversation that I had with my niece about 6 months ago, almost a year now, that you have to be equally yoked. You can't, one of y'all can't decide that you want to have something in life and the other person is just working in the kitchen, part-time job. So you have to also find somebody who can get on board with your hopes and your dreams, and somebody who don't mind standing down when they need to, and that's on both sides. That's on both sides, and somebody who's willing to agree to disagree. Pretty much.
Yeah.
And to back to she answered it, but not only being able to disagree to agree is not feeling that you've got to be the one in control all the time. Like learning how to stand down, learning how to go. All right, I ain't that. I don't need to win that one. Uh, I'm supporting you. Might not care nothing about it, but it doesn't matter as long as the support is there, and vice versa. But if we have to be confrontation, feel as if we need to win all the time, well, that relationship ain't gonna last no way.
Yeah.
It's just
And
a
coming
fact.
into this marriage, I was so I lived by myself for years before we got married and before we came together on the same roof. And I had a very strong personality. I knew how to handle business. I knew how to take care of myself. I knew how to pay my own bills, pay my own car note. But the more our relationship evolved, my the Jackie Potts that I was had to stand down to his strong personality. And in a lot of cases, not unless I'm just totally passionate about something, will I say, well, no, I just don't agree with that. Or, and in a lot of cases, if it's something that's rocking and rolling and it's been working, I don't knock him on it. Even if I do have just a little swag to it, I don't knock him on it because it's no, I mean, it's working. So, like you said, not feeling like you got to have the last say, not feeling like you got to agree with me this time because I've agreed with you the last 5 times. We don't keep score.
You can't keep no score.
Yeah, we don't keep score in our marriage. Well, you've made the last 10 decisions. Let me make one. That's not what we do. So, and that in itself keeps your marriage healthy. I've learned to take the stand down role and allow him to be the man and take and lead.
So
Now, another thing that she does that I have to say, and I have to find the right way to put it, but she gives me the freedom to become a creative thinker and think outside the box when it comes to investing in structure. A lot of times we don't get the freedom to be able to really concentrate on us because work got us, business got us, something got us. We're working 17 hours a day, and we're never taking that 1 hour out for the family or the 1 hour out to develop the family. And to Jackie's credit, she's given me that ability to think outside the box and be able to bring ideals. And she say, "You got the time for that?" No, I make the time for it because I can to come up with creative things to pitch to her,
yeah.
if that makes sense.
No, it does. And just listening, two things that I'm able to take away from it is that there's a lot of trust in this.
It has not always been that way.
Right. It's trust is earned, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's earned. I mean, but at the end, at the beginning, I'm sure that there was just that blind trust, right?
Yeah.
But then you have to work on certain things, and we make mistakes, and
Yep.
and we get back up, we pick each other up. But as it stands right now, there's a lot of trust that goes into the relationship, obviously, and then talking about generational wealth on how we're gonna handle the money. because you could have one way what you think, and you could have another way, but that may not necessarily work. So it's how do we trust each other to help? Okay, to your point, you say I stand down sometimes, and you say you may stand down, but we're going to go the same direction. And that takes a lot of trust in itself.
Right. In addition to me standing down on a lot of stuff, I had to embrace the fact that he was an out of the box thinker, and he was also a risk taker. I'm a zero risk taker, 0
Mhm.
times 10 a risk, no risk. So because I'm so much of a not taking risk, it was really hard for me to wrap my head around him being a risk taker. Him being a risk taker has walked us into doors that in the bank with friendships, business friendships. Had it been me, we would still have 10 rental houses. So all of that, just embracing the person that he is and not trying to dumb him down because I'm not there yet, has really helped in the relationship.
Yeah. And then the other side was, and I've told someone this is, would you rather win the argument or lose the relationship?
Right.
Right. So, it's all about the relationship. And sometimes, to your point, you may have to step back. And to your point as well, you may have to step back. It ain't always about winning. It's at the end of the day, it's about the relationship.
Right.
Well, and to go on a little farther with that, in creating what you can call a safe space.
Mhm.
And what that safe space is, I don't appreciate what you said, what you did, or whatever the case may be. But that safe space that you create to have that conversation, I can tell you how I really feel. But when we walk away from that conversation, that was the safe. You understand what I'm saying? When a safe space for us to be able to talk about the finger pointing, the blaming, and the whatever. Uh, Creating a space for that to be able to take place, and then they still become learning opportunities. And you have a place. All right, let's go ahead and get this out the way, air it out, or whatever.
And a lot of
You? I hope you understand what
Yeah,
that
yeah,
means.
for sure.
Okay, okay.
creating a safe place also comes from a place of a healthy relationship because you have to have a healthy relationship to be able to have a conversation
Hmm.
about creating a healthy space to air things out, and then tomorrow we're gonna get up and we're gonna keep going just like it's a regular day.
Yeah. And you mentioned something about, you had to step back and let him take the lead because you were in your own right able to handle your own business, right?
Hmm.
Because you had lived alone for a while. But, why is it that um, it's usually the norm for the man to sort of take the lead on the financial piece within a relationship and or family? And why do we think that is?
Well, yeah, well, number one is biblical, where the man is supposed to lead. I'm supposed to submit myself to my husband as my husband is supposed to submit himself to the Lord. Number one, that's biblical. Number two, nobody wants a husband that a woman can just totally just run over. And if you run over them at the house, it's going to show it in the streets when you're around other people. But I feel like I like to base a lot of what I say and do on my biblical principles and my morals, and I know that's what's right. But he does not take him being a man as precedence over me and my feelings. My feelings are always considered when there's a big decision that needs to be made. He never make the big decision without coming to me, saying, baby, this is what I'm thinking. What do you think? And we'll brainstorm. And in a lot of cases, we'll take pieces of what he said and pieces of what I said and make it a complete product.
Hmm. Hmm. No, she answered.
All right. So, but what tends to happen when um, that man isn't allowed to kind of lead? Not necessarily allowed to lead, but there could be that I don't trust. He's made mistakes, or I just got something I need to work on, and I don't let him take that lead, so to speak. Like, what tends to kind of happen in a relationship that takes those approaches?
they they end up going in different directions, whether they know it or not. Uh, and and if you're not in agreements with each other, how you going to grow? That's number one. And you have to find that happy spot where you all can agree. Now you need to be able to disagree to agree, but you've got to have a place that okay, we need to stick this on the shelf. what I mean, I was going to mention that a moment ago. There are certain things in our lives that I wanted to put on the shelf. And what I mean by put on the shelf, we're going to put it on the shelf and we'll re-entertain it later. And Jackie will tell you there are some things that I still ain't ready to go to the shelf with and pull it off the shelf to discuss it. But we move on to the next thing. It will eventually get dealt with, but we put those things on a shelf and say, okay, let's table these things because we're not going to get to a solution on them, and we'll come back and revisit the ones that we need to. But if we try to open up every can of worms, the family, you start to running out of control, and our emotions get out of control. Everything gets out of control. Let's deal with one crisis at a time, and then some crisis is just better to, can we please stay together, move together in the same direction to overcome this crisis? Because every long as we've been married, we've had so many crises to it's unreal. And then me spending 30 years in the military and 3 deployments, I'm accustomed to being a part of crisis. So that's how we've handled a lot of that is
So that's how
unhappy
we've
things.
handled it. But your question was, how is it in relationships that a man is able to take the driver's seat, and what happens in relationship when a man does not? I can go back to my upbringing. Totally different. My
Yeah,
mom was in the driver's seat. She ran a tight ship. My dad was more or less passive, but still the man of the house. I feel like he was definitely still the spiritual leader. But because my mom was a homemaker, she was the one who paid the bills and made sure, she was the driver. My daddy was the conductor, pretty much, and he was the one who made sure we had what we need to keep that shelter. But my mom ran the show. So, and a lot. So to answer the other side of that question, it's just personality differences when the lady's in the driver's seat, and the lady seems like she's out front. But my daddy was a gentle giant in the back. You know this.
Mhm.
He was a gentle giant in the back, and he made sure we had what we needed. There were times when we got ready to eat, we had just pinto beans and cornbread. Daddy waited until last and got the cornbread and the liquor. That's a leader.
Yeah, for sure. Uh, Financial partnership. How does um, financial partnership look between husband and wife?
Well, first of all, in society we live in today, husband and wife, they both work, okay? And they both bring money, funds to the family. And so the partnership needs to be that we're working as one again. If she's going east and I'm going west, where the growth? How can we grow? Yeah, you got your check. You pay. You're gonna pay part of the bills. I got my check. I'm gonna pay the other part of the bills. That may work for some houses, but at our house, it's all one.
Yeah.
It's all one. It ain't no you paying this and you paying that, and I got my separate checking account. You got your separate check. No, we got one account.
How do people get like that? To where is you got this?
You've said it.
I
I've
don't
never been
know.
like that
You've
myself.
said it. Lack of trust.
Yeah.
So my answer to your question is no. I mean mine.
Hmm.
Yeah,
It's we and us.
Yeah.
yeah,
And I'm not here to complete. I'm not here to
Compliment.
compete. I'm here to complete.
Yeah.
And we're that for each other. I feel a lot of times we go into relationships because of our upbringing.
Hmm.
There's
hmm
only one bank account that we have that he's not on, and I just had to do it real quick. But he has total access visual. He can pull it up and see all of it. And it was when we started the Airbnb business. I needed a way to get that money in the account. I didn't want to mix with nothing else. But he has total access to it. But to piggyback off something he said, mine and yours, you got your account, and you pay this, you pay that. Marriage is not 50-50. Marriage is 100 and 100. You give 100%, I give 100%. If I'm giving 50 and 50, what we got? You got 100% out there floating out there somewhere that's been messed around with,
Yeah.
that should be in our house, trying to figure out how can we move this boat forward.
Because what will come out of that, to add to that, with that equalness. If I'm making $100 and Jackie is making $10, because I'm making 100, don't make her 10 less equal. But we get those things confused too. A lot of people get that confused. Well, I'm making all the money. I make all this. And well, what was she doing? What she taking care of the house? She's doing all these other things, allowing me to have time to think about opportunities. So we're equal. It may not be equal financially, but it's equal
because it all
overall
balances out.
because it all balances out. But you do have people out there that in their upbringing, you make all the money. Make sure you keep some that because you don't know what he doing or she doing. You make sure, and once them poisonous seeds get into folks' head, they'll have a whole nother account going, a whole nother family
Mm-hmm. Yep.
because that seed done creeped on into their heads. And how can your family grow if you're going to be? Well, I was always told I need to keep something to the side. Well, why are you with this person if you're afraid of them
Y'all not
that
come
y'all
together
can't
as one. Yes.
Why are you? What are you all doing? And so that's one of the things I was always remember that you got to be one, and the only way to be one is to put aside who's making what. We're equal. Put aside who's bringing what to the table. What assets were already here. It is ours.
It just creates division.
Yeah, it creates division. It does. It really
I know a
does.
friend right now. Her husband, when they're not married anymore, but she's actually related to us. Her husband still is, I think, a truck driver, and then she's a dentist, and of course she's bringing in more money than he was, and she was talking about looking for land or something, and she was just she was calling me for advice, and I think it was advice for me to be on her side. Well, we found land and blah 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 and all this. Well, I'm making all the money. He's always saying that, we. I said, well, it is we. I said, y'all are married. I said, you just make more money than he make. I said, whatever it is that y'all decide on, it's y'all's decision. I said, just like you're running your house now, if you get ready to buy some land and build something, it's still y'all's. So a lot of people, like I said before, it depends on how you're raised,
Mm-hmm.
and it depends on what seeds are. And this is what was happening with her. The seeds were being planted with her. Don't let him just take advantage of everything you make.
Outside
Well, it was her
Outside.
parents.
Yeah.
It was her parents. Don't let all this. Don't let him take advantage of all the stuff that you went to medical school. You worked hard for that dentist degree. Blah blah blah. He chose to drive a truck. Truck drivers make pretty good, you know. So a lot of times, like he said, it's the seeds that's being planted, and it's how you're taking those seeds to allow them to grow in your marriage.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I never understood and you guys said it, it creates division.
It
I never
does.
understood it to where obviously you're individuals, right? But if you're coming together, you pulling all your resources together, how do you even still have the mindset to keep them separate?
Right.
And
Especially if you're both traveling toward one common goal.
Right. Right.
One common goal.
Yeah.
A lot of that comes from just from again generational. When you were talking about generational wealth, generational that's what they've seen, and they're just repeating what they've seen and repeating what they've heard that they need to do in their lives.
What's being taught,
Yep.
what's being demonstrated, and what you've been exposed to. That drives everything you do for the rest of your life.
And with that much division as it relates to just the financial piece, there can be no generational wealth.
Nope.
Nope. How can it be?
It can be no
It
generational
can't.
wealth.
I
And I don't
want-
mean to cut you off. It's just what at the end of the day, we are here to, like, we're put on this earth to be linked with somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's one person, I'm just in general, even if it's business or networking, it's with multiple people. But in terms of a relationship, you're here to be with somebody.
Yeah.
Whoever that is, we don't know. But once you do find that person, you have to kind of let go of the individualism and become one.
Right.
Because if we're going to get towards generational wealth, we can't get there by ourselves. We got to kind of get there together. And sometimes, she may have a better idea. Sometimes I may have a better idea. But if we're pulling it away from one another, holding funds to your point in this account over here and keeping it secret because this person gave me advice because I done put in all the work,
Mm-hmm.
there can be no generational wealth.
Nope. You just pull it. You're just pulling yourself further apart.
Yep.
Further apart.
And that also come from feeling that you need to be in control. And I don't think if everything is set up for one person to be totally in control, I think some of that is going to go south to again. Uh, our 19-year-old, he's became a member. So when he's sitting talking to us and we're having discussions, and I decide I want to go east, but Jackie and him decide that they want to go west. Well, they outvoted me. Well, I can't get mad because I didn't win the argument and they won. I have a responsibility to support them in the direction they want to go. I didn't win that one. So what? We still have a responsibility
Yeah.
to support.
Right. Right. So, how can wives actually support their man, their husband, to where he's encouraged and feel empowered to step into that leadership role as it relates to finances?
Um, I support him by listening. I support him by giving him advice when he asks. I support him by not giving him pushback. When it's a lot of times we have ideas. I do sarcastically say, when he come in the house and, oh, you've been outside, you saw the world's problems. But and that's our
And I'll be
joke.
like, "Yep."
Yes, and that's our joke. You saw the word problem, but I know he's just not out there bumping his gums. So I think the one answer, I mean the one word to your question is supportive.
Mhm.
Being supportive.
Yeah, and with that support, again, it empowers. Like for us, it empowers me again to take more calculated risks because I have support. It also emboldens me to just really think outside the box because I'm an outside the box kind of thinker, and I haven't just got that way, and I need her to allow me to throw all of these ideals off of her. See, I'm an extrovert; she's an introvert, so
Totally. I know you. I know you
yeah,
wouldn't think it.
yeah,
I'm a
and
total
so
You
introvert.
extrovert with your family.
I'm an outgoing introvert.
Yeah.
Is a thing.
yeah,
So
with the family, you're right, but everybody else, she an invert. And so allowing me the opportunity to say, "Hey, I was reading this. What you think about this?" I think about it. It might be a month or two before she come back
yeah, I don't.
around to it, but,
I'm not off the cuff.
it ain't gonna be off the cuff. But giving me that opportunity to do that, and then when I do come up with decisions, go, I support that. That's a good idea. Well, yeah, let's do that.
So when
Let's
when
do
you,
that.
when you get that type of leeway, trust from Jackie, um, do you ever feel as though, hey, I can't mess this up because she trusts me, she's giving me liberty, and to your point, that's why you don't mind circling back to consider. But do you ever feel like, hey, I got this on my shoulders, I got to make sure I get this right?
Sorta, but because what I also know when you take risks, you have a strong possibility of failure. And we have learned our real growth come from our failures. If you don't have failures, how can you don't really get no growth, and then life becomes so simple until when you do have a failure, it may become catastrophic. But in our lives, we've had so many failures, they become learning lessons to not to do again, but not stop.
Yeah, some people have failures,
And
and
they done.
and it's like I just don't want to ever do that again. I'm good with just working my 8 to 5. I'm good with just going to church on Sundays. I don't have to do missions. I'm good with whatever it is that the status quo told us we have to do. But and a lot of people fail and go to that place and stay there. But a lot of people fail, get up, dust their boots off, and consider it a learning lesson that they're being behind you. And then you don't just fail and not learn something. So even when you fail, you get to what not to do the next time. You know what I mean? You know what strategy to take. Instead of taking the left, you take the fork in the road.
Right. So as a wife, when those failures had come, you know, how did you, or how do you uh, kind of stay in that mindset of, I understand it's going to be a lesson, but I don't want to sound so distraught to where now I'm discouraging him to even take these risks.
Well, we've had one really bad failure, as taking a risk,
Hmm.
and how I was able to be supportive to Curtis is, um, I saw that it bothered him, and I allowed him to be with himself and not just, okay, let's brainstorm, let's do. I allowed him to be with himself and to reflect on, because he made most of the decision, but I went along because it looked good, and so from there I very leery about the platform that we failed at. Very leery about it. If I saw him on his phone and it looked like something that we had failed, I'm like, I don't want to do that. But at the same time, he's a risk taker. I do know in most cases he's researched it. I do know he don't just jump off the cliff without having the information on his back of how to do it. But I mean, when you fail, you fail, and I didn't mind allowing him to reflect on whatever decision he had made without beating him up with it, but I still proceed cautiously.
But and then knowing that you're gonna have support at the end of the day. And I go back to being a kid. When I first left home, it was one thing my parents told me: when you can't do nothing else, you can always come home. You know how that empower a young person to know, I'm gonna go out and do whatever I want to do. Because if when I can't live by myself, I can't pay for nothing no more, I can always go home. So to what Jackie just said to you, not saying that you take everything for granted, but knowing that you have that support that you can come back to, it does empower you to do, try more, and have confidence. But there is a but you need to own the failure.
Mhm.
And if you never own the failure and it's always somebody else's fault, might want to be a little cautious with that, with what they're saying. But if they can own it and say, "Yeah, I did that. I made that mistake." All right, well, let's close the chapter. And what we're gonna try next.
Yeah. Okay. So let's shift to the children a little bit. What financial lessons should be taught to every child before they actually leave the house?
I was before I answer that part. What do you typically think the child's first words that they learn are? I'm asking both of
Dad.
you, dad and mama. You would say that, wouldn't
Yeah.
you?
Yeah.
But think about it. When they can't talk and they go to put their hand on the fire, you slap their hand. No. When they go to put their pencil in the extension cord or into the socket, what do we say? No. No is really the first word they learn. You don't think about it, but that's really the first word because you're teaching them from toddler on. So that's really the first word that they're going to really learn is no. So with kids, they learn by us enforcing things. They learn by watching us, and so again, uh, we feel Curtis body right now. I feel that most our society don't realize it, but every household is already running a business. It is their LLC, their family house or their family. It is a business, and if we start our children out early to incorporate them into those financial decisions, showing them the budget, showing them what we're working with and what our family plans are and what the budget is. A couple things should come out of that. The first thing should come out of that. Your kids should go, "Oh, I didn't know that's what that costs. I didn't know what that stuff was." And then it should help them go, "How do I help my family now? How do I help mom and daddy? They're doing all of these things. Now I can help them." But they don't know to help if we're not having the family meetings, if we're not sitting down talking to them about the good, the bad, and the ugly with the checking account. But if we hiding everything from them and making them think that they're living in a bed of roses when they're really not, it's some sticks in there too. But if you're having those conversations early enough, they hearing the conversation from mom and dad enough, and they're just involved in the overall business of the house. That's what they need to learn before they leave your house. And if we're not doing that, we're making our children start from ground zero every time. And you hear it so much. When they turn 18, I want them out the house. Well, when they turn 18, you start them off at ground zero. You probably got a $10,000 credit card. You ain't even added them to it. Or you haven't taught them to be added onto a credit card. You can help them get a checking account, but I ain't going to help them do nothing. Or I ain't going to do this because all these different, I'm going to make them work for theirs. Well, really? Really? But how often do we hear that?
Hear it a lot.
You setting the child up for failure. You setting the child up to go do things that they shouldn't have to do. And if you've already did all of the work and you come from a calm place, hey, I want to add you to this credit card. We're gonna start working on your credit report. Let's pull your credit report out so we can look at it. You see how calm I became then? Yeah, I don't like that decision, but let me show you something we can do that may work. We are getting the experience as adults right now, but are we passing it to that next generation so they don't have to start from ground zero, from scratch? But so many people, I just want them out of my house. They'll figure it out and go to school, get a job, and you'll figure it out.
Yeah, I think that's the perfect way to set somebody back.
Yeah,
'Cause, I mean, you're gonna fall. You're gonna
fall.
you're gonna make mistakes.
You're gonna
And,
fall.
and to the point of how we started this conversation about you all the first generation, why if I know it, I not pass it down in terms of what my knowledge is as it relates to monetary things.
Yeah.
And then you talked a little bit about, family as LLC, et cetera. Now I know we talked offline about trust and things of that nature, but how does one begin to kind of utilize their family structure to, I guess, start trust, LLC, etc., to be able to kind of incorporate? Do I need to start some sort of separate entity, or can I just operate as if it's already a separate entity as it relates to having the family involved with finances?
You wanna,
No, you go ahead.
well, the first thing, let's start with baby steps. One, first thing we have to do is make sure that the family business is functioning. When I keep saying family business, your household, your light, water, phone, everything that pertains to the house.
So that's the first
That
business.
we already running those businesses daily right now. It's a matter of mindset.
So mindset, yeah, it's a relationship, but we're gonna run this thing like a business simultaneously while we're in this relationship.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so once you have learned how to work the family business, and now I want to start a pressure washing business. That pressure washing business, hey baby, I want to start a pressure washing business. We're gonna go create an LLC. Okay, we're gonna get our EIN. We're gonna write this mission statement for the pressure washing company, so we can get a checking account open and all of those things. So now we are two businesses: our family business and the LLC. But where I'm gonna go right here first before I get to the trusts is, if something in the LLC don't work, what are we gonna do? We're gonna stop doing that, aren't we? But a lot of times in our family, if something don't work, we'll continue to do it in the family. But we won't do it in business, but we will do it in family business. The family business should 99.90% of the time work just like the LLC when it comes to things that work and don't work. All right, now you mentioned a trust and family estates. So we have the family business, we have a LLC, and now you want to you want to protect the assets that you all have gained over the years. And we're going to do that through having a trust. And what the trust will own the business. So you don't own the business, you become what's called a trustee. All you are is a trustee. You gave up all of your material things in life to a trust, and that trust own it and not you. It is not yours anymore. You're merely a trustee. Now, because you don't own anything, what is it to take from you? The trust owns it. So you'll have a family business. It's its own piece. That's it. That's not a LLC or anything. That's just you doing business. Then you'll have a LLC for the pressure washing business. But now we're going to create a Business trust, and that business trust it's its own entity too. It will own the LLC and not you.
What they say, own everything and
Own everything. Own nothing and control everything.
yeah,
But guess what we've been taught all our
to
lives?
own
Own,
everything.
own,
Yeah.
own. And you're putting all of
Bye, bye,
these
bye, mine.
bye, me, I, mine. Look
Mhm.
at what I done. Look at what I own. And it should be, you should become irrelevant. And these things belong to certain entities that you manage as a trustee. And if you teach your children that, that's how they will conduct business. I don't need to own anything. If I get, why do I need to own
I
a
have
car
the
that I can
rights to all
drive?
this.
If I got the rights to all of this, why do I need to own it?
Yeah. How does that benefit the next generation? Like how so does the trust end with you or how does that benefit the next generation?
The trust continues on. Those assets that were given to a trust does not go to probate because it's its own business entity, and the once we are gone, a successor just steps in or manager just steps in and continue it moving forward. But they can't step in if they haven't been mentored and being part of the board meetings and being part of knowing what all of this is.
If they've not put themselves in a position to
Hmm.
learn the process.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can't. How can you put somebody to be a successor when they've never spent no time around it? It's gonna fail. So it's equally important for your children to be a part. So when you do get old and ready to retire, that and you have a successor that can step in and keep all of these things going.
And the thought is that it would be a continuous cycle
Generation.
on a positive side
Yep.
versus the continuous cycle of starting from zero.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because it's already there. So if the trust has been established for 30 years, and now or someone's child is taking over, the trust is 30 years old, 30 years history. I'm sure it's got money in the bank, got assets tied to it and everything. And all the successor has to do at this point is manage. And then when his 30 years up, now we have a trust that's 60 years old. So the third generation come behind him. Do you see how wealthy they're going to become?
Oh, much more.
Every generation that come behind you will become wealthier and wealthier because they're following the family values, the family plan. And why would I try to create something new when this works?
Mhm.
All you got to do is follow the blueprint.
Right.
Hmm.
Right. How do we normalize our kids to um, own businesses, own land, own real estate? How
They
do we?
got to see it. They
I
got to
think
see
it's
it.
what we demonstrate to
Yeah,
them.
it is.
Yeah, like I said earlier, demonstrating and exposure. That's the key. And like I said earlier, we have conversations in front of them on purpose.
Mhm.
We're in the car and we talk about it in the car, and we strategically have that conversation. They're listening.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're always listening. And then I have little nugget conversations. I feel like windshield time is your most powerful time with your children.
Mhm.
When you're in that car, uh, that radio don't always need to be on. You know, you need, and sometimes I strategically figure out, okay, what am I going to say to Madison today when she get in the car? And so I strategically have conversations with her. I strategically make sure I'm in the kitchen when she's cleaning up to have conversations that mean something. Uh, if it's whether it's teaching her how to be motherly, whether it's teaching her how to be a good housewife, whether it's teaching her how to make sure she's not throwing away food that you can make another meal, and all of that. So it's just you strategically having the conversations, either in front of them or with them.
And involving them in to your
Yeah.
point in certain things
Yes.
that go on with the family.
Right, right, right.
Yeah.
And like we said earlier, giving them an opportunity to talk about what's important to them. Probably ain't gonna do it, but giving them the opportunity to speak what's important to them and what their views are on subjects. You need, because when you give a child an opportunity to have a voice, have that opinion, and you hear them out, that resonates with them too. That gives them more confidence. That gives them confidence to come talk to you about more things. and then being able to explain your why to them, and why this probably the answer is gonna be no. Thanks for asking, but let me tell you why the answer gonna be no. But having that dialogue, and starting it early enough so they become comfortable uh, discussing things. Because there's one thing I don't know about you all, but when I grew up, we folks didn't have conversation about money. They were private conversations. You know, when I left the house, I really didn't even know how to do a checkbook. Tell you the truth, ain't nobody took no time out talking nothing to me about a dollar.
We
I
grew
had to
up in the
learn it.
era where
Yeah.
you don't need to sit around grown folk talking. Go on back up in the
Uh-huh.
back somewhere.
Yeah.
So much to learn when they sit at your feet. I mean, think about sitting at the feet of Jesus. There's so much to learn when you're sitting at somebody's feet who's full of knowledge. As long as it's an appropriate conversation for a child to hear, let them sit at your feet.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
So, but that's where it comes from for children, and whether you're it's a family, or whether you're a single parent, whatever, the same responsibility still required. Because if we think we're going to be send our children off to school somewhere and they're going to learn what they need in life, we've definitely set them generation behind again, because they're not. That's not going to happen. Go to school, get a good job, and you're going to learn everything you need to know about financial literacy. Whew, you just sit that child a whole generation behind.
Right. Yeah.
I think the most they taught us growing up in home economics was how to write a check. I don't even think they taught us how to balance a checkbook.
I don't think there's any intent to teach you finances in
It's
grade
not.
school. Yeah, I mean, because you need
Yeah.
workers. Why would I teach you how to set yourself up for success when
Right,
I need you to
right.
work for me?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, I'm just thinking back. We weren't taught any of that stuff. How to
So
do none of that.
what's you touched on it just a tad bit, so I'm gonna get a little bit more detail with it. But what is a good age to start having these conversations or having the kids be around these types of conversations? Because at some point they're not comprehending. But what makes the most sense in terms of having your kids around?
I think you from the beginning.
I
When
think
it, yeah,
I think when they start asking for money,
for
when
sure.
they're starting to ask for money to get hair and nails and all that done, I think that's a very good time. When they're starting to actually go to every birthday party for one child for a whole 10 years, that is when it's time. I feel like when they recognize that mom and daddy have to go in their purses to fund whatever it is that you're asking for,
It's time.
it's time to start talking about money.
Yeah.
Yep.
Never looked at it like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's time.
Yeah, when they start asking for financial gain for something, it's time to start talking about money.
And for them to understand where that came from.
Yeah.
Because you'll be amazed how many kids they run into you asking for money. They really don't understand where it come from. And Jack and I consider myself a late bloomer when we come to our kids' age. But I tell everybody that I get up every morning because I need for these birds to see me going out working every day and bringing something back. I need for them to see us working a business. I need for them to see that, because you can't redo, or you can't do what you never saw. You can't do what you don't know. So we try to make sure we do these things in front of them so they know they exist, and we kind of move forward. Now, my 19-year-old, now we put more pressure on him. My 14-year-old, she ain't under pressure right now, but the 19, because he's becoming a young man and stepping into the world, he has to carry a little bit more pressure with us now. And we tell him every year, I'm gonna add more pressure to you. Just want you to know. I think what I tell him, 16, was it
I
16?
can't remember.
Yeah, I think he was 16 when I told him every year from here on, son, every year I'm gonna add more pressure to you now. I'm not trying to run you at the house, but I'm gonna add more to you.
You get them prepared.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Now, a lot of what you all are talking about leads toward leaving a legacy.
hmm
And what people don't see is all the work that goes into getting it to that point to where a legacy can be left. What does it mean to you to be able to leave a legacy behind for your children?
You know, when you say legacy, left behind, Normally, we're, first of all, we're talking about who we are, what the family has done, generational, what our grandparents did, uh, what their grandparents did, and what the family plans are, and how did they how well did they do at educate executing those plans, and this is what was left behind for us to manage. And here is the blueprint again. All we got to do, you all, we our kids, when we leave that legacy, they will become second generation, and by being second generation and being mentored to the entire time, uh, just means that for me, legacy means family values, not so much materialistic stuff, but those values that they can follow from then on, and then talk about what their parents did, their great grandparents did, and so on, to get us to where they are today. I think that's what that legacy look like.
The simple answer for me is I definitely agree with everything he's saying, but I feel your legacy is everything that's woven within your fiber. Everything that you've learned, everything that's been poured on you, everything that you've received, everything good and everything bad. I feel like that is what your legacy is. Now, the legacy can be broken up into so many different entities, from finances to property to whatever it is you want to break it up in. But just the broad, easy answer for me is legacy is every single thing that you've been through that's woven within your fiber to take you to the next generation.
And with the next generation, uh, you know, when you're gone, you can't control
Mm-mm.
what the next generation is
Shouldn't
doing,
even
right?
worry about it.
And but you've worked so hard to get it to a certain point to where someone can be the successor for it, right, and keep it going. What type of fail safes can be put in place to ensure that, regardless of how that successor thinks, that this train is going to keep moving?
Well, one of one of the ways to do that is whoever that successor is, they're not at the table by themselves. They're the successor, but they have other people that are voting members that make that decision with them. If you leave a person again to all of their own devices, they are going to get off base. But if they have a board or council that they have to adhere to, they will that's going to be where the key is at. Is you heard me say voting members. um, so when that person becomes your successor, there will be appointed other board members that make decisions with them for the family. You're just the head of the family. You're going to make the last say so, but we're going to help you make that say so because we're voting members too. And so all that will also, and you always want an odd number so that the family can always move forward on a decision that people may or may not like. In all decisions, the family is not going to like, but if that's what they voted to do, that's the end result. Half the other half may hate it, but the decision has been made. We have the majority of the votes. That's the direction we're going. Now, what I do expect for you to do is not keep all your marbles over here because you're mad, and still support the family because it's out of love. Is That's why we put a board together in the first place, to help the next successor be successful.
So, what do you do when someone within the family that you want to be a part of this just can't seem to get in line or understand that, hey, there's rules, regulations, and bylaws that we have to follow to make sure this thing works. It ain't personal.
Right,
It's just about the next 50 to 100 years is
right.
what we thinking about. So, how do you deal with an individual within the family that just is not seeing eye to eye on those types of things?
You make them a non-voter.
Mm.
They still have a responsibility. Now, everybody that's a part of the board, I will say this first of all: how you keep all of them wanting to be there, they're getting something out of the deal. It ain't just free voluntarily. Once the family has established a trust and all of that, and the people that are on that board, I'll keep it real simple and say everybody at least don't have to buy cell phones no more. And if you ain't got to buy no cell phone no more, the least you can do is make sure you at a meeting once a month. I believe you'll come to a meeting once a month if you ain't got to buy a cell phone. You see what I'm
Hmm.
saying? And so that's how, as long as they're getting something out of it, you will keep most of your young people enthused because not only is, man, I don't, they all they want to do is talk, but they do pay for my cell phone. They do pay for some other stuff for me. Let me go hear what they got to say. And then they want to start putting their ideals into play because they done watched us and said, "Hey, you take them a good ideal, they might bite at it. You know that rental house that we said we wanted, they might help us buy it. Let's pitch it to them." Uh, Go
I
ahead.
want to go back to the question you had about how do you I'm using my own words, how do you cushion it for lack of failure so it doesn't fail. Um, I think you have to teach them the right way to manage the trust or whatever we have in place that they're a part of. And they have to also see the fruits of their labor.
Hmm.
And in a lot of cases, if you teach it to them properly, and they can actually see the fruit of the labor, and they can actually see what they're making. And I feel a lot of times 2 or 3 years of that will give them what they need for them to stand up and be like, oh, okay, so if we continue to do that year after year, this grows, we grow, and this is how it works. So I feel like a lot of times when people are when people are given $100 for a whole month, you got to make that $100 last. But if you don't teach them to go ahead and buy some groceries and to go ahead and figure out your meals that you're going to eat and go ahead and figure out from A to Z, that $100 is going to be gone pretty quickly. So I feel like if you teach them the proper way to run the business, to run the house, to run the trust, to run whatever it is that they are a part of, and they can actually see the fruits, then a lot of times you got the buy in.
Yeah, they
And
got to
then
be
you have
supported.
it, then they know how to teach it
Hmm.
the proper way. They know how to show for other people to see the fruits of their labor, and so on and so forth for generations to come.
So you have to be really, really intentional.
You have
Oh
to be
yeah,
strategic
Yeah.
yeah.
in exactly what you're doing. And then you have to make sure you compartmentalize the teaching. You can't just pour it all on them.
Mhm.
You have to pour it on them in doses where they can understand. And then you have to re-entertain it. You have to ask the question, do you understand? Is there a question that you have of me? I felt like last time when we met about this, you weren't clear. So because of whatever it is that you've done that you don't have to point it out, but you have to always keep circling them back to it to make sure they know, to make sure they understand. And I always think being strategic is always a good character of a person to be strategic and to be intentional. So all those things play a part in making sure whatever you've put them in and they're a part of that it succeeds and it does not fail. That does not mean it's not gonna fail, but that is foolproof in itself that it should not fail if it's taught properly and if it's demonstrated and if it's implemented and
Got
if they're exposed to the right things.
it. Okay.
I looked at my phone then to I did make this note. It's called "I love you, I accept you, I forgive you. I forgive you when I don't even understand you." If we learn how to use our children as well as our family members, I love you, I accept you. These are three different things. I love you. I'm gonna love you unconditionally. I accept you unconditionally. I don't agree with what you're doing, but I forgive you anyway because I love you and accept you. And now we can still do whatever it is together. But where we mess it up uh, out of that is I might love you, but I ain't. See, you don't wear black shoes like I do, so I can't. You can't be a part of this community, or you don't have the same belief system I got. So I'm gonna keep you away from me. But if you really love them, you really accept them, you can forgive them for them things that they may not even realize that they're doing or not doing. Our love should be a little bit more unforgiving than I might not have the same belief system you have. That don't mean that I love you any less. I might not do the same activities you do. That don't mean we should love each other any less. But this society will teach people, if you're not part of my clique, I ain't got time for you. And we miss out on a lot of positive things with those type of personalities. But when it comes to family, I love you, I accept you, I forgive you. I forgive you for it because I don't understand you. So I'm forgiving you. I don't understand. You see what I did? I'm making it on me. I ain't making it your problem. I don't understand it because I don't understand what you're doing. I forgive you.
Yeah, love is kind, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And how you express that.
And we talked a little bit about children starting at zero. This child start at zero. They're 18, 19,
Hmm.
20. They don't know. What type of advice could you give someone just starting out as it relates to what generational wealth is and how to obtain it at the age? So, in a sense, even if you can go back, like what you know now, if you can go back to 21, like what would you do differently and what could you tell a young person just starting out?
First thing I would do is I'm going and find them relatives with them 800 credit scores and telling them to add me to their credit cards. I don't want a credit card. I just need you to pull me up with yours. Okay, that's number one. Number two, uh, introduce me to the banker that you've been dealing with. I got $2,000, and you say he'll do business with me if I got $2,000. Don't make me go find my own banker when you already got a banker. Don't make me go find new insurance company if you already doing business with the insurance company. But guess what you're gonna hear? I don't want to do it because they might mess me up. The way we keep them from messing us up is with good mentorship, is with good counsel, and people will. We're talking immediate family
Mm.
now. Uh, Typically, you know your immediate family well enough, but how is that 18-year old gonna grow? Ain't no need of them trying to find their own insurance, get their own car loan, get their own credit in today's society, a lot of those things we should try to lay out for them so at least they'll have that jump in life and not try to get the $500 student credit card, which they not going to pay. And that $500, that's all they got on their credit report. They going to miss two payments and now they got a 400 credit score and don't know why life is treating them so bad because no adult took the time out to tell them when you get that $500 credit card that's only $500 limit, you can't max it out every month and then don't pay it for two and expect you to do well. So that's what we have to do. Our generation have to do to help the next generation. And if that child don't have that in their life, excuse me, what should a child do that don't have any of that in their life? I'm gonna say they still got to go seek mentorship. One of the things that we work with a foundation that's getting started called Clearview Foundation. And what that foundation is going to do is work with foster children that age out of the foster care system. And those children end up in hotels, going to colleges that the system pay for, but they have no real family. Now, those kids really need help. A lot of these kids that have families, that's just the families not taking time out to develop that child at 18. But the foster child, I'll let Jake, you can talk on that a little bit
Well,
more.
the foundation will so he said age out of the system, but before they age out of the system, once they get to a certain age, no one wants to adopt them. Nobody wants to foster them. And in a lot of cases, with CPS, these unadoptable and unfostered children are living in hotel with sitters. That's starting a generation of children, of boys who don't know what a father figure look like. A generation of boys who don't know how to do yard work. A generation of boys who don't know um, how to lead. I start a generation of girls who don't know how to be a good mother. Nobody has demonstrated. Don't know how to keep a house. Don't know how to wash a load of clothes because they're living in a hotel. It starts a generation of people who don't know how to keep a house. you go into some neighborhoods where it is saturated with a certain demographic and of people, and they're living any kind of way. They've not been taught how to take care of a yard. They've not been taught how to make sure you don't have moisture around your house, and so it's those children that that foundation is seeking to mentor and to mentor them in individual houses so they'll have a backyard. So they might have a sitter, but they'll have responsibilities as boys and girls to do certain things that people expect for a wife or a husband to do. So they'll know what that look like when they get one. So that's pretty much that's just one entity of the foundation, and the other entity of the foundation is stable housing for veterans. So many of our veterans living on the street with all these mental issues and alcohol and drug issues, um, they don't have to be. So they have money that they're getting, but nobody has put their arms around them to say, "Hey, I can help you. You don't have to be on the streets. Let me help you get into you. Let me help you get in your room. Just rent a room a month, and then let me help you figure out how to manage your money, and then let's get you into your 1 bedroom apartment." So the veterans is a step. It's steps, but the children is getting at least 3 girls in a house with a motherly figure person to teach them. Then once they graduate from high school, because that's one thing that the foundation is going to push. Graduate from high school, they're still in CPS custody. That foundation won't grants that's going to pay these children's education to go to college if that's what they want to do. It's going to have mentors for these children. They want to go to the military, if they want to pick up a trade. So we want the forgotten children um, to not be left out
Out
of
of
that
that,
foundation.
and that's why I brought that in. Is single parents still have a responsibility not to let that 18-year-old leave their house with no financial education. But we as parents, we have to invest in ourselves uh, oftenly till we leave here so we can pass those lessons on to our kids. So letting an 18-year-old leave your house and never talked about financial responsibility, never showed them a credit card. Now they getting student loans and financial aid and gonna pick up a credit card in the college because the college give you a $500 credit card. Once again, I'm going back to that again, and that $500 credit card, because they have not been taught, is going to be the destruction of them between getting use a car now. When they go to get a car, instead of getting a 4% interest rate, because of that bad $500 credit card that all they done had, now they paying 18%. But they don't even realize they paying 18% because everybody they've been around is accustomed to paying 18% because we never worked on what credit profiles look like. We never worked on the financial literacy part of it. And so that make a lot of our children struggle getting started because they have so many hurdles to jump. And typically, a lot of our kids, I feel, go ahead and drop out of school because they got bills to take care of now because they just wasn't taught that. And then we go, then someone may beat me up and say, well, what if I didn't know? Well, that means that we need to get some counsel in our lives or be involved with family members or be involved with lawyers, accountants, or tax preparers or someone that we can start getting these things in our families so that our kids at the age of 18 do not walk out the door and not know these things because it's gonna hurt them.
Right.
It's you're gonna sit them back another generation, and then you're gonna cause them at an 18-year-old's life until they figure that out. Millions, millions of dollars they're not gonna make or not have or pay millions too much for stuff over their lifetime because they never got that financial piece straight.
Well, this brings us to the end, and certainly appreciate you all blessing us with your presence, your thoughts and insight on generational wealth in general and how that applies to families. So, you know, I definitely appreciate it. Hope to have you all back on in maybe another capacity in the future. We can talk about whatever you want to talk about.
We
right?
enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, so I really appreciate it, and looking forward to another conversation with you all.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Nephew.
Generations are dependent on you. Stop thinking paycheck to paycheck and start thinking generation to generation. If today lit a fire inside you, share this episode with 3 people who need to hear it. Subscribe to the Purpose Pursuit podcast, because the legacies aren't built by accident. They're built on purpose. Let's keep building.